G'day guys, welcome back. I'm here for part two of this little series I'm doing in the lead up to the 2022 AFL National Draft, which is I think on the 28th of November. I'm more having a look at the history of the draft here, and in part one I specifically looked at pick 10, and I'm trying to specifically find the best player taken with each pick inside the top 10. So pick 10's been done and dusted. I don't think there's much argument that Patrick Dangerfield was the best player with pick 10 from 1986 through to 2021. Absolutely an amazing footballer. So that one is very, very clear, crystal clear. I'm going to have a look at pick number 9 today. And try and find who is, in fact, the best ever player with selection number 9 in the VFL/AFL draft. And you would think, given it's a better pick than pick number 10, that we would probably find a player in here that's better than Patrick Dangerfield. Or will we? Is it as clear as that? I'm not quite sure whether it's going to be or not. This is going to be pretty bloody interesting, to be perfectly honest. So let's get started. I've broken it up into categories: not so notables, notable mentions, newbies, and then the winner. And this is no disrespect at all to the not so notables, because anyone who's drafted, anyone, doesn't matter whether you didn't play a game, played 1 game, 2 games, 50 games, 60 games, 3,000 games. You're good enough to be drafted. It's a great effort, okay? But I've broken it up, okay? So we'll start with the not-so-notables, and we go right back to 1986, and Andrew Payes was the first ever pick number 9. He went to Essendon out of Woodville, West Torrens, didn't play a game for the Bombers, just couldn't break into their lineup, went back to South Australia, became an inaugural foundation member with the Adelaide Crows in 1991, and managed 14 games across 2 seasons with them. 1987, Michael Murphy. I vaguely remember him, another South Australian from Glenelg, drafted to North Melbourne with selection number 9. Only played 3 games at Arden Street. Returned to South Australia, and like Andrew Payes, ended up being part of the inaugural year at the Adelaide Crows. 2 seasons he spent there, 16 games, 41 goals, let go by Adelaide, went to Brisbane and was okay there as well, 10 games and 22 goals. Ended up with 29 games and 63 goals. That's not a bad strike rate. 1987. 1988, I remember Michael Werner to Essendon. I just remember him. He was just one of those, just a sort of a light performer. Michael Werner played most of his football at Essendon, although he played a fair bit of football at Sydney as well when he was traded to there. From South Australia, West Torrens, 60 games and 80 goals. But this just shows you how good these blokes are when they go back to local level. Have a listen to this. Michael Werner, he later played for Gisborne in the season of 1997. Now, I think they were going pretty bloody well then, Gisborne, in the Riddle District Football League. And maybe, I might be wrong here, but I think they may have even been coached by Mick McGuan, former Collingwood Premiership player Mick McGuan, who now coaches Keilor. And listen to this. Michael Werner, I'm not quite sure how old he was in 1997, but in that year, obviously playing full forward, he kicked 173 goals. Just shake your head at that. That is quite unbelievable. It's not the worst competition of football either, the Riddle District Football League. 1994, another not so notable, Ben Wilson, drafted to Collingwood from South Australia, only played the 6 games. Like a lot of players, ended up at Sydney, but only played 6 games. 1996, Mark Harwood from Tasmania, Port Adelaide got him with pick number 9. He was there for a while, 5 seasons in fact, but only managed 30 games. Interesting one, Caden Beetham Really talented player from the Oakley Chargers. Played 37 games in 3 seasons with the Saints. He suffered from wasn't an illness or something was wrong with his body. Something. Anyway, in 2002, he announced his premature retirement. I actually remember it. And I'm thinking at the time, geez, that's a bit of a waste for the Saints because he could actually play. So that was in 1999. 2001, Luke Molan, a bit of a flop for the D's, who drafted him from Camperdown out of Geelong Falcons. He had some injuries at Melbourne, part of that super draft. That makes it even more disappointing for the D's. Ended up at Frankston, then made his way to Spotswood in the WRFL, where he played in a couple of premierships there. 2003, another disappointing player, David Trotter, Assumption College boy, Calder Cannons as well, 7 games in 4 years at Arden Street. 2009, Andrew Moore, who played 55 games and then went to Richmond from Port Adelaide, but never quite lived up to, I suppose, the big raps on him coming into the AFL. Ended up, after his time finished at Richmond, went back and played in the VFL and played in Richmond's 2018 VFL Premiership team. Let's go to the notable mentions. And there's some interesting ones here, and we start with a really, really fascinating one in Dale Kickett. 5 teams he played for. He's had more clubs than the Canadian SEAL, Dale Pickett. That was in 1989. He was drafted to Fitzroy with pick number 9. Overall, he played 180 games across those 5 clubs, most of those with Fremantle, though, 135. So he played at the West Coast. So Fitzroy, West Coast, St Kilda, Essendon, and Fremantle. Best and fairest winner at the Dockers. First cousin of Buddy Franklin. Very good player. Very good, very skillful, but probably best known for his part in a massive brawl in the 2000 derby between, or derby, whatever you want to call it, between the Eagles and the Dockers. It was known after that, and he played a huge part in that, huge part of it. He was throwing haymakers. The demolition derby, and Dale Kickett ended up copping a 9-week suspension. Matt Clappe, somewhat a favourite of mine, being a Carlton supporter, only played 87 games. Originally drafted by the West Coast Eagles as a defender, couldn't quite break into the team there. Made his way to Princes Park and was outstanding in 1995. He went from defender, turned forward. There was a game where he was pushed forward against, I think it may have been Adelaide. He had a heap of the ball, but kicked 7 goals straight, and then became just an integral part of Carlton's front half in that 1995 season when they won the grand final. And he was outstanding on grand final day with 19 touches and ended the year with 31 goals. So Matt Clappe, really good footballer. Stephen O'Reilly, very controversial. Western Australian, Swan Districts, drafted to the Cats, but went back to Fremantle. They were desperate to get him back to Western Australia. Played some outstanding football there. Best and fairest, went over the Dockers in 1996. 146 games, and obviously 98 of those with the Dockers. Carlton were desperate to get him at the time. Full back, came across and just had injury after injury and didn't last long in the Blues. But it was post. He was a very good player, but it was post his career that he made the headlines, really, because he was named as one of 4 players caught in the centre of that salary cap cheating scandal at the Blues. It just ended up, the brown paper bag saga. It rocked the football club for a long period of time. Rowan Worth, someone unknown. I remember him. Originally Fitzroy, made his way to Sydney when the Royals folded. Played 110 games overall. 84 of those were with the Swans. He was just a serviceable player. Alan Jakovich. Wow. 23 years of age he was before he got drafted. Younger brother of West Coast Eagles legend Glenn Jakovich, who was an absolute superstar, but both brothers couldn't be further apart in regards to the way they played the game. Big Glenn was more robotic, but this guy, he was a serious talent. He could do anything on the football field, undersized, full forward, but powerful in the sort of mould of a Rene Kink in regards to his body. And came to Melbourne and set the AFL world on alight, really, in 1995. That's when he was, I suppose, picked up. I mean, this is an interesting one because he was picked number 9 in 1995 when he went to the Bulldogs after he'd been delisted from Melbourne. But he was originally picked number 6 in 1991 for the D's. But we're going to go with pick number 9. Just, wow, could he play? He became, I think it was the equal record holder with John Coleman as the fastest player to get to 100 goals in 21 games. In his first season at the D's, he kicked 50 goals in the reserves and 71 goals in the seniors. Not many players have done that. And overall, you know, you look at what he was able to do in regards to games played and goals kicked. He's played 201 goals from his he kicked 201 goals from his 47 games. Chronic back concerns, as I mentioned before, ended up being let go by Melbourne and found his way to the Western Bulldogs with pick 9, but only played the 7 games and kicked 7 goals. Freak. Just a freak. Chad Corns, 1997, Port Adelaide, a superstar at both ends of the ground. Was a forward first, defender second, centre-half forward, centre-half back, but could play. 255 games, 179 goals. Premiership player in 2004 for the Port. 2 times All-Australian. And then once he gave the game away, he came out of retirement and went up and helped the Giants out when they first started as an assistant playing coach and played a further 16 games there. Mark McVeigh, the Bombers in 1998, selection number 9, 232 games. Didn't realise he played that many. 107 goals across 13 seasons. Caretaker coach of the Giants this year when Leon Cameron resigned. Had a fair crack at it there. And one of the Essendon players that caught up in the drug scandal. I didn't realise that. I didn't realise he was there then. And it meant that he had to sit the 2016 season out from assistant coaching. Mark McVeigh, a very solid player for the Bombers. Kane Pettifer. He could turn it on. Kane Pettifer, he was a typical sort of Richmond player during that time. He could turn it on, but very inconsistent. Could kick a goal, could take a big mark, sort of undersized sort of forward who could do a little bit in the air and at ground level. From Kyabram, sharpshooter, mark of the year contender, that type of stuff. Did an ACL. Ended up playing 113 games and kicked 132 goals. Finished the career in 2008. I think he may have even gone back to Kyabram. Hamish McIntosh, another injury-riddled big ruckman. Pick number 9 for North Melbourne in 2002. Played, what did he play? 107 games at North Melbourne. Ended up going to Geelong. He was just injury prone. I think he didn't really add many games, 126 games overall. ACL, Achilles. Good player, very talented in the ruck, but I think at that point in time, Geelong was sort of crying out to try and replace, how good Brad Ottens was, and they were trying just about everyone, and it didn't quite work out with that. Hamish McIntosh. Jordan Russell, a blue bagger from South Australia, came to Carlton, Princes Park, played most of his footy at Carlton, 116 games for the Blues, went across to Collingwood for, was it a year? Ended up playing 125 games. Runner-up to Chris Judd, which is a fair effort in 2010 in the best and fairest. And then went on to play really good football in the VFL. Became I think maybe even a development coach, captain of Footscray's VFL team, and they played and won 2 premierships in his time there. Mitch Clark, Brisbane in 2005. Quite a sad story, really, because he had so much ability, had a lot of injuries, early in his career at Brisbane, but still, yeah, just showed enough to say that he was going to be a superstar of the game. Played 81 games there, ended up playing 106 overall and kicked 111 goals. Went to Melbourne, but then started to suffer from mental health issues. Was the leading goal kicker at the D's in his time there. Made his way to the Cats, and it just never was quite. I don't know. Yeah, he was always up against it in regards to his mental health. Mitch Clark, pick number 9 in 2005. David Armitage, just solid contributor. Queenslander, went to the Saints, won 69 games, came second in the 2019 Best and Fairest, and polled 12 Brownlow votes in that year for St Kilda. Ben McAvoy, Big Boy, as he was nicknamed, 2007, pick number 9 for the Saints. Yeah, look, I mean, they were disappointed that they lost him because he was really becoming one of the best ruckmen in the competition. But Hawthorn went hard at him. They were after a ruckman that could go forward and kick goals. They had David Hale, Ben McAvoy, 95 games for the St Kilda Football Club, and 161 games for the Hawks, including 2 premierships, and was the Hawthorn captain over the last couple of years, and has just retired. Jack Zeeble, North Melbourne, out of Wodonga, 2008, still playing. Didn't realise he'd played that much football, 258 games, and kicked 182 goals. He's been captain since 2017. He's been on the verge of being a superstar. Just the verge, the tip. Can turn it on his day, but it's been a struggle the last couple of years for Jack Zeeble. Dion Prestia, what a pickup for the Tigers after starting his career at the Gold Coast Suns, 2010, pick number 9. Played some outstanding football with the Suns, was vice-captain for a period of time. He played 95 games, came across. Richmond wanted to come home to Melbourne as well. And who would have thought what would have unfolded when they got Dion Prestia and also Josh Caddy to the football club, Big Tom Lynch as well. Became a 3-time premiership player with the Tigers. 2019, he was All-Australian and Richmond Best and Fairest winner. And now is basically injury prone, and there must be some question marks on his longevity, which would be disappointing for the Tigers because he can play. Adam Tomlinson, just cruelled when he came to the D's. Originally at the Giants, where he played a lot of football, 140 games for the Giants, picked number 9 in 2011. Was part of that really bad grand final loss for the Giants, where he actually played really well on a wing, won a lot of the ball, was one of the only players to really put his hand up on that day. Came to Melbourne, came back home to Victoria and was thinking, yeah, here's a chance for me to really establish myself, and copped an ACL for the D's and missed out on playing in their drought-breaking premiership in 2021. Harrison Petty took his spot. And it's just sort of struggled since, somewhat. But he somewhat made up for it this year, qualified and played enough games in the VFL at Casey to qualify for the finals, ended up playing in the Casey VFL Premiership this season. Nick Blostone, Tigers have had some goodies with selection number 9. That was in 2012. Eltham lad, terrific footballer. Started off, I think, as a midfielder, really. There was sort of, I think the plan was to play him through the midfield, but he's become one of the real quality defenders, sort of medium-sized defenders in the competition. 190 games and 3-time premiership player. I wouldn't say he's underrated, but geez, he's bloody good at the Tigers. Really good player. Christian Salem, 2013, another defender, won 43 games now with the D's, had some injuries, premiership player in 2021, and on his day, there's no better distributor across half-pack in the game, in my book. Couple more to go in the notable mentions. Darcy Moore, 2014, obviously a father and son selection. The son of the great Peter Moore, who played 100 games for the Pies, also played a Brownlow medalist at Melbourne. And one of the most dynamic key backs in the game after starting his career as a forward when he first came to the Pies. Had some injuries, missed a lot of football but was All-Australian as a defender in 2000. And will he be the future captain of the Collingwood Football Club? Maybe. And maybe this guy should have been in the newbies, but I just think he's done enough to warrant a selection in my notable mentions, and that's Aaron Norton, 2017. Born in Frankston, didn't know that. So he's a Victorian originally, but parents moved to WA when he was 9. Probably should be, as I mentioned, a newbie, but I reckon the sky's the limit for this bloke. Can play tall back where he was first drafted, but he's making his mark now as a key forward, and I reckon probably the best contested mark in the game. He's played 94 games and kicked 138 goals. So they're my notable mentions for pick number 9. All right. Newbies. Mine is Norton. So Sam Wiedemann, 2015. Melbourne, now Essendon. Question marks. Will Brady was question marks. Now got his career going. 2016. So originally Gold Coast. Now really playing some good football for Fremantle. Chase Jones, question marks. Adelaide, 2018. Liam Henry, a few question marks. Reports he may have wanted out of the Dockers, 2019. A guy that I really rate, 2020, Archie Perkins for Essendon. And another bloke who showed some really good signs, 2021, Josh Gibcus. First-year player for the Tigers, a key back. All right, let's get to the winner. It's been a long one, 21 minutes we've gone. This is a bit of a surprise. But when you go through that list, no one really is jumping out at you. I thought long and hard about Chad Corns. I really did. I just think he was such a wonderful footballer. But there was no one who had an individual record that you're thinking, other than maybe games, there was no one with an individual record that was just so brilliant that you had to choose them. So my winner, and the best ever, pick number 9, across 1986 to 2021, is Martin Pike, who was drafted with pick number 9 in 1992. He played at 4 clubs. Have a listen to this. Drafted by Melbourne via Norwood in the Sandford in 1992. He played 24 games for the D's in 2 seasons as a hybrid forward and kicked 24 goals and showed a lot of talent. He was let go by Melbourne because of off-field issues, and he had a problem on the drink, and it was much publicised at the time. He was picked up by Fitzroy, where he spent 2 seasons for 36 games. He won Fitzroy's Best and Fairest in 1996, making him the last ever winner of that award at the Fitzroy Football Club because they folded in 1996. Was not selected by Brisbane as one of the Fitzroy players to head north with the merger when they folded, due mostly to his poor behaviour off-field. In July 1996, he was found guilty of drink driving for the 3rd time and was fined $1,000, lost his licence for 5 years, and sentenced to 6 months in jail, but avoided having to go to jail. He was able to serve the sentence at home under an intensive correction order. North Melbourne then gave Pike a lifeline in 1997. He played 81 games for the Kangas as a halfback flanker, played in North's losing grand final against Adelaide in 1998, but was a member of the Kangaroos' premiership win over Carlton the following year in 1999. Once again, poor behaviour resulted in Pike being delisted by North Melbourne in 2000. And you would have thought at that time that it would have been all over. However, with Lee Matthews taking over the role as senior coach at the Brisbane Lions, Pike finally found his way when he was traded or picked up by the Brisbane Lions He got his act together, becoming an integral part of Brisbane's dynasty between 2001 and 2003, where he became an outstanding defender and a three-time premiership player with the club. All in all, Pike notched up 247 games, a best and fairest at the Fitzroy Football Club, the last ever, and 4 premierships. I don't think you can argue with that, guys. So Martin Pike. Martin Pike is our best ever selection with pick number 9. Speak soon with pick number 8.